After that we see Pepsi truck going on full speed on the roads. Then we see armed men which are inside and are preparing for fight. Then we see Jason which is sitting on the front seat and looking at his new mask and he smiles. Then he gets his AK-47 and reloads it. Then we see giant aircraft carrier docked on the shore, Nano Bay. We see people of Thomas having a small camp on an aircraft carrier. They have tents, cages, gun places and more. Then we see Thomas walking around and checking on his men. Then we see one of his men climb the small watchtower they put on an aircraft carrier. Then he takes out his sniper and sits on the chair up there. Then we see long yellow racing roads on front of the aircraft carrier where around 3 sport cars are racing and one fence is separating the racing roads and the camp. Then we see Thomas stop and whisper under his breath, "The fact that this giant crap we're on isn't working sucks." After that we see Pepsi truck stopping on a mountain and 24 men come out of the back of the truck and Jason also comes out soon. He pulls up his binoculars and takes a look at the aircraft carrier. Then he says, "They're around 60. And we're only 26. We're massively outnumbered." Then one of the men told him, "It is what it is. We have that tank-like truck, get to the main subject." "Do you see our women?" Jason said to him while still holding his binoculars. "Yeah, they have captured 5 women of ours. And fortunately all of them are on the same place." Then George came out of the truck holding shotgun and asked, "So? What are we doing now?" Jason said, "See that little wooden bridge connecting land and the aircraft carrier? We can fit our Pepsi truck and full-on raid their camp. That truck has an amazingly good armor and it shouldn't much problem, and we can get out and start our rescue and rampage when we have to. Then we get our women inside the truck and leave as few of them alive as possible, so they won't be on the list of our problems." Then George said, "Sounds good. Ain't you smart? Where did you learn all that strategies though?" Jason told him, "Nowhere." And he started walking towards the Pepsi truck. Then other men got inside too and George soon hopped inside too. Then George pulled up the brakes and said, "Let's go baby," and started the truck at full speed. Then we see Thomas which is resting outside, but then he hears men shouting and opens his eyes. He looks at the mountains and sees Pepsi truck heading towards them at full speed. Then he stands up immediately and starts shouting, "Are you blind? Shoot at that garbage now." Then Thomas's men started shooting their weapons at the truck but it barely had an effect. Then we see Jason getting his mask on and he pulled his head out of window and started shooting with his AK-47. After few missed bullets he managed to kill 2 men of Thomas. Thomas got scared and started running inside the controlling center of aircraft carrier, and as he got inside, Pepsi truck got on the aircraft carrier and started walking over Thomas' men. Then we see George which is laughing inside while drifting the truck like a crazy man. Then Jason tells him, "Time's to stop." Then they stopped the truck and 7 men of Thomas stood behind the truck facing the cargo. Then back of the truck opened and 27 started firing from inside and they soon killed all 7 of them. Then we see the men getting out and running towards the cage where the women were held. While killing every man and woman of Thomas on the way, a couple of the survivors die in the process but they just don't stop. Then we see racing car in the other end of aircraft carrier drifting and heading towards them. Survivors start shooting at it but it just doesn't stop. Then George shouts, "Get down!" and fires his rebounds per game at the car. The car turns away but the impact of explosion launches the car into the sea. Then one of the survivors shouted, "You never fail to surprise us, old man." Then Jason and other men got to the cage and rescued 5 women from there. They got them in the truck and soon drove off from there. Then Jason said to George, "We should have done this a long time ago," and cracked a smile. George said while driving, "Yeah. You are 101% right," and started laughing. 10 minutes later, then we see Pepsi truck approaching the camp but they see a huge flame coming from there. Jason looks so worried and George said nervously, "What the hell is happening?" Then they approach the gate and it's completely destroyed and taken down. Then they see burnt farms and tents, completely smashed houses, human corpses and fences, Jason's dog, corpse. Then other men and women got out of the truck, shocked as equally as Jason and George. Then Jason asked, "Who or what would do this?" Then George shouted angrily, "Why do we always have life-threatening problems?" and dropped the shotgun he was holding on the ground. But then Jason saw a corpse of well-armed soldier in black suit. He asked George, "Do you remember anyone having this armor?" George answered, "No, maybe they attacked us but our people resisted." Then Jason started looting that soldier's corpse and found an USB chip. Then he looked at it closely and said, "This might have an useful information on it." and put it in his socket. Then we see other survivors investigating the destroyed camp, but then they hear helicopter sounds. Then Jason shouts hide. And they all hide behind left bushes, Pepsi truck and other stuff. Then Jason and George look towards the direction where helicopter noises were coming from, and they couldn't believe their eyes. Jason said stutteringly, "Holy shit." They saw 14 black helicopters carrying the head of Mechagodzilla. George stared at them for 5 seconds and shouted, "What the fuck?"